Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Emma, and this is where I chat all about my knitting and crocheting. It is September, which feels crazy. This year has just absolutely flown by, but both of my girls are back at school now as of this week, and this time of year always feels like kind of like the new year for me, more than January does really. I don't know, just because both of my girls are still at school, I think, and we kind of have this fresh start every September. We've had the break over summer, and then they're going back to school, new year group and things. It just always feels like a natural fresh start for me. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to come and have a chat with you all, share some projects that I've been working on over the summer, some new things that I've got on the needles and the hook at the moment. And I also want to share some upcoming plans that I've got of projects to make. It is definitely starting to feel very autumnal in the air now. It's the first time today in quite a long time actually that I've had to wear a jacket on the school run. So I'm really looking forward to getting started with some lovely autumn cozy projects and things. So I'm going to share some of those with you as well. So before I do that, I do want to update you on just a couple of projects. One of them I have mentioned previously, and I've shown quite a lot in previous episodes, and that is now finished, and you can see it on screen here, and that is my Advent scarf. And I'm going to show you this as best as I can, but I am also going to take some separate footage of me wearing it to put on screen at the same time so you can see it, just so you can get a bit more of an accurate depiction of how it looks, because it's enormous. It is absolutely enormous, and it's really difficult to show because it's so big. So if you have seen my previous episodes, I started this project back in January, and I've called this my Advent scarf because I've used mini skeins from my yarn advent that I got last year from Loom Wool. It's a really, really simple pattern. I've not followed any instructions or anything. I've just made it up as I've gone along. And it has been such a delight to work on because it's been such a long-term project. It's been with me throughout all of the changing seasons. It's grown with me throughout the year. It has been just wonderful. I've honestly enjoyed every single stitch, even though it's just a ridiculously simple pattern and there's nothing fancy about it. I've just loved working on it. So I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to just go through the colours. They're all incredibly beautiful. I didn't follow them in the order of which I opened them in the advent calendar or anything like that. I kind of did a random mix. I love this end here. I did a random mixture, but I just tried to mix up the lights and the dark so that there was a good distribution. And that was it really. And also I did try to think of how it was going to look when it's worn. So like I say, I am going to put some footage in so that you can see it. But as I was knitting it, I had to imagine that I was going to have part wrapped around my neck here and then the two long pieces on either side. And I wanted my favourite colours to be at either end of the scarf so that they would be on show, whereas the colours that I maybe wasn't so keen on would be hidden in the wrapped part. So I've got this end here, and this is the end that I started with. And then at this end, we've got some lovely pinks and things. But yeah, all of these colours are absolutely stunning. And every time I've posted pictures of this on Instagram and things, I have had people asking me about the pattern. Now, because it is, like I say, so ridiculously simple, I'm going to write it up as a free download. It will probably just be a page, honestly, explaining what I've done and things. Um, so yeah, it's not complicated enough to warrant a proper pattern that I can charge for. So that will be going up as a free download on Ravelry. But It's perfect for mini skeins, and if you are getting a yarn advent this year and you're looking for project ideas and things, then this could be a really good one. And the brilliant thing as well is that because it's knitted in a tube, all of the ends are kind of hidden on the inside, so I didn't even have to sew them in properly. I just knit over them as I was actually knitting the scarf itself, and then I just tied the ends together really securely and then trimmed them, and then all of those are hidden inside the scarf. I've kitchen stitched the ends to finish, so yeah, it looks really great. There was not much finishing off to do at all, and uh, it's not been blocked. I did pop it away because I was thinking that I should probably block it, but now that it's been folded and popped away for a little bit, it seems to have settled down. The problem when, well, I mean, it's not a problem, I suppose, but when you're knitting a tube, like the same as when you're knitting socks, you're actually in effect knitting a spiral. All the stitches are stacked on top of each other and go around in a spiral. And because of that, and because it's such a big length, the seam actually moves across the scarf. So yeah, I did think I would have to block it, but now that it's been folded, actually, I think I might be able to get away with leaving it. So yeah, but I'm really, really happy with how that's turned out, and I'm so excited for winter. I've got a really big fluffy bear coat that I like to wear in winter, and I think this is going to just look really nice with it. So yeah, I'm really excited to get all wrapped up in that. And it's been really nice because I've used up every last bit practically of the skeins in that calendar. And yeah, it's really nice because I mean often people get advent calendars, don't they? And then it can be a bit of a tricky task finding a project for them. And it's nice just to have one project where I can say, yes, that's what I made with all of the yarn in that advent. So very, very happy with how that's turned out, and I hope you like it too. And like I said, that will be appearing on Ravelry as a free download soon. I would also like to make it available on my Etsy store because the majority of my pattern sales come from Etsy. So I'm kind of, people know my patterns more on that platform, and I don't want people to miss out on it. But I'm not sure whether that would work because I do need to look into it. But as far as I'm aware, Etsy doesn't offer the option to list something as a free download, and I have to pay listing fees, so it wouldn't make sense to put it as a to pay more to list it than it would to put it up for free to sell it. So what I might do is put it up for something really small just to cover the listing fees, like 50p or something like that. But I need to look into that. But it will definitely be up on Ravelry. And if you're interested in that, just keep an eye on my Instagram because I will post on there as soon as it's available. And you can find me on Instagram as Emma C Makes, same as my YouTube channel. Another project that I want to chat about today is another finished object, and I've not actually shown it on this channel in a full length video before. If you watch short form content, I have shared it on there, and I have shared it on Instagram, but I'm really proud of it. So even though it's kind of a new project and it's finished, I do still want to show it and chat about it. And it's another huge project, but is it the right way around? Yes. But I have made this beautiful granny square blanket. I have wanted to make a blanket like this for such a long time, and I've always been put off by just the sheer amount of work that's involved. And I won't lie, there was a lot of work involved in this blanket. And it was hugely inspired by a similar blanket by Green Letter Day on Instagram, who are a yarn dyeing company, but they also post really fabulous blankets and things, showcasing all the colours in the ranges that they're bringing out and things. And they had a blanket with similar colours to this, and yeah, I've always been in love with it, and I've always been put off making something like it until now. So this blanket consists of 192 granny squares in total. And I've used 5 different colours, and some of them are a bit similar. So it might look as though there are less colours than that, but I have actually used 5, and the yarn for this blanket was very kindly gifted to me from Hobbii. I am incredibly lucky because Hobbii are very kindly providing yarn support this year for me for some of the projects that I'm creating and have planned and things. So they very kindly agreed to send me this yarn, and this is their Hobbii Friends rainbow bamboo. So it feels really, really beautiful. It's quite a heavy blanket because cotton and bamboo does have quite a lot of weight to it, but it's cool at the same time. So yeah, it's really, really nice. This is going to go on Isla's bed. Her bedroom was recently redecorated and the colours will fit in really nicely. So if you are interested in the colours that I've used natural white for the second and third rounds of the squares and then for joining them. And then I've used dusty pink velvet, dusty rose, bronze, burnt terracotta, and powder rose. So if you would like to create, a blanket like this yourself, then those are the colours that I used. And like I said, I did 192 squares in total. So that roughly works out as about 38 squares each. But for 2 of the colours, I had to do 39. So 2 of the colours have 39 squares, and then the other 3 just have 38, and then that works out all of the maths and things. And I just did the centres of the squares in the colours. I got a little production line set up. I did all of the centres in one colour, and then I worked around them. I did 2 rounds in the natural white, sewed in all of the ends, and then joined them together. Now, I did have not a problem, but it did take me a couple of attempts to join them just because I wasn't happy with my first attempt. So I thought it would be easier for me to crochet them together because I'm just not a natural sewist. So I thought that would be easier for me. So I did start joining them with a crochet slip stitch join, which is really easy to do. You just hold the squares together with right sides facing and then go through the back loops and slip stitch them all the way along the row. And I did all of the vertical joins first. And then as I started to go across and do the horizontal joins, I realised that I didn't like it because the slip stitching was so tight. It was cinching the squares in and they were starting to pucker. So I ended up pulling the entire thing out, putting all the different coloured squares back into piles again, and I rejoined them. I did end up sewing them together, which was quicker actually. So I probably should have just tried to sew them together in the first place, but yeah, I whip stitched them together. And then I just had to do the border. And for the border, oh, I'm sorry, I just knocked my microphone, so I'm sorry if that went a bit funny there. But for the border, I have just done 2 rounds of treble crochets, and that's in UK terms, so that's US double crochets. And I finished off with a round of double crochets, which is single crochets in the US, just in this colour here. And the reason I chose to do it in that colour was because it's my favourite one out of all of them. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. Really, really happy. I was trying to decide whether I should add one more round to the border in white, but I decided not to. And I think I made the right decision. I did put a poll on my Instagram, and pretty much everyone who responded said that no, just leave it as it is. So yeah, that's a completely new project that I've been working on over the summer that has been and gone, but very, very beautiful. I will not be in a rush to complete a blanket like that again just because of the sheer amount of work that it involved, but I'm really happy with it. And in the future, at some point, maybe I'll make another one. I have another project that I'm making using yarn from Hobbii, and it's another granny square blanket, but different from the last one because instead of being made up of individual granny squares, I'm just working round and round to make one big one. And I'll hold it up to show you how it's looking so far. And it's still attached to the yarn, so you have to bear with me. And this is how it's looking. And I wanted to do something quite colourful, so I just chose four colours that I really liked that I thought went nicely together, and they are all Hobbii Twister Solid. So this is a cotton and acrylic mix, and it's quite a fine yarn. It's what I would call a UK 4-ply. So I've got this colour, which is like a pale green, and that is colour 122. I have colour number 129, which is this really lovely sky blue. It's blowing out a little bit on camera there, but it's not quite as vivid in real life. It's a bit more pastelly. And then I have these two colours, and the bands have fallen off these ones, but I will try to find out exactly what shades they are so that I can pop them in the description box below for you. And then I'm just using this cream colour here in between. So I'm basically doing one round in a colour, and then following that with two rounds in cream, and I'm working through the colours in order. So it's pink, purple, green and blue, and I'm just repeating that round and round and round. And I have sewn most of the ends in, but I've worked on it a bit more now, so I've got a few more that I need to do. And I've had a couple of questions asking me how I've managed to get this to look so straight. I'm not doing anything really special or anything. I'm just turning it over after each round and working on the opposite side. And I find that just makes things nice and even all the way around. And this is getting to be quite a decent size now. I don't have a particular size in mind. So I think I'm just going to keep going until, yeah, until I start to run out of the yarn and things. I've only got one cake each of the colours, but I've got plenty of the cream, so I could potentially, keep going for quite a while. So we'll see how that how big it ends up. But again, yeah, that yarn was very kindly gifted to me by Hobbii, and I do have some really beautiful other yarn that I've just received from Hobbii this week for some upcoming projects that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. I have one pair of socks on the needles at the moment. I'm chugging away at them. I've not been knitting a lot of socks recently, as you know, but I am trying to get back into the swing of things. They're just a pair of plain vanilla socks, and the yarn is extremely beautiful. I'm going to show you the yarn first of all. I bought myself a sock set from the Camel's yarn, which is a new to me yarn dyer based in Cornwall. And I do apologise, but I can't remember the dyer's name. But I'll pop links and things so you can look at her shop in the description box below. And as soon as I saw this sock set, I had to get it. It was just so beautiful. Obviously, it's been wound now. I'll try and pop in a picture as well. I think I've got one to show you what it looks like in the skein. It's just gorgeous. Can you see all of the beautiful colours? It reminds me of all the colours that you would find in a seashell, just all blended together. I have never had yarn where all of the colours have been blended together so perfectly like this. It's just really beautiful. It's kind of like you know when you see like a prism of light or something and you can see all of the separate colours but they're kind of all blended together. It's really gorgeous, and that came with a mini skein here. And this is also new to me because it's a different type of yarn that I've not used for socks before, and that is BFL, or I've not used it for hand dyed yarn. I'm not sure if I've used it in like a commercial yarn, but yeah, this is a first for hand dyed yarn for me, and it feels a lot more rustic than merino, but not not unpleasantly so. And I imagine that it will soften up a little bit with a wash as well. And I'm still on sock number 1, and this is how it's looking. So you can see all the lovely colours, how they all work up, and you do. Now I didn't realise this until I held it up in the camera, but you can kind of see now like a repeating pattern where the colours are pooling ever so slightly, but still very gorgeous. And I've done a half twisted rib, 15 rounds to start. I've done 45 rounds for the leg, a heel flap and gusset. And I need to try this on now, but I believe I am almost ready to start the toe, and I'll just do just a bog standard sock toe where I decrease one round and knit the next round. But yeah, they're really beautiful. I haven't been working on them a lot, but they've been a nice project to have there to pick up when I need to. If I'm going out or something like that. Luke took a couple of weeks off work at the end of August, and we went on some days out, and they were really nice just to pop in a bag and take with me, because I obviously didn't have to take lots of yarn and things. So yeah, I've not worked on them a great deal, but maybe by the next time we chat they'll be finished. But very, very beautiful yarn. I will definitely be getting some more from that yarn dyer. I have picked up a bit of an old project, and I've got my knitting planner here, my knitting and crochet journal, and I can see that I started this back in May, and I started it, did a really tiny amount on it, and then kind of didn't really pick it up again until very recently. And the second time that I picked it up and started working on it, I got really, really into it. And I'm talking about my moss stitch blanket. And again, it's still got some yarn attached to it, so I'll just have to be careful of that. I don't want to pull all my stitches out when I'm speaking to you. So I'm going to hold it up to show you what I've done so far. There are quite a lot of ends. I did sew them in, but then I've worked quite a lot more. So you can see at the top here, I've got some more. And this is how it's looking. I am very, very nearly at the point where I can start decreasing this. I have made one of these blankets before, but this is working quite differently. The last time I made one of these moss stitch blankets, I used a lot more scrap yarn and things. So I had much smaller quantities of the yarn. So I couldn't do full rows basically. So it looks a lot different. Whereas with this one, because I've been using, I've had quite, a lot of some of the colours. So this was left over from a pair of socks, and likewise, so was this one. And then a lot of the other yarn was mini skeins from an advent calendar that I had a while ago. So because of that, I've been able to do 2 rows of every colour so far. And let me just pop and get my other moss stitch blanket so I can show you the difference. So the other blanket that I had, I'm going to hold it up. You can see that, like here, for example, the colours don't always make it entirely across the row. And as I'm working on this more and more, my current one, obviously the quantities of yarn that I'm getting is smaller and smaller, and I am going to reach a point where I'm not going to be able to do 2 full rows with every colour. So I'm not sure how that's going to look. So I'm basically going to have one half of the blanket where I've got 2 rows and it's quite uniform, and then the second half is going to be a lot more scrappy, but um, we'll see how it looks. I just want to hold this old one up again because it's one of my favourite things that I've ever made, and I think it deserves to be shown off a bit more. But yeah, I love this blanket. It's really difficult to show it on camera as well. I think because it's made up of so many different colours, my camera kind of doesn't know where to focus on it, so it never really looks its best either on camera, which is a shame. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. This one is a square, and the one that I'm working on at the moment, I'm going to try something a little bit different, and I'm going to work it up as a rectangle. And I do have a tutorial for the square version. I'll pop a link on the screen in case you want to check that out. The one that I'm working on now, that's going to be a rectangle. I will be filming a new tutorial soon to show you how to do a rectangular version as well, in case you want to know how to do that. But yeah, having a lot of fun working on that one. I've got my ball of yarn here, and it looks really full on the camera, but I've actually made a really good dent on that. The quantity is definitely reduced since I've been working on that. And it's just really nice to see the blanket getting bigger and the yarn ball and all the yarn getting smaller at the same time. So I'm going to continue working on that, and then I'll hopefully have some more progress to show, as well as the tutorial for it. I have frogged my Ingrid sweater. This has been a very, very long time knitting project that I think I finished the body and then I just left it. Then I picked it up recently and I thought I really need to get that sorted and get it done. And I started working the first sleeve, almost finished the first sleeve, really didn't enjoy working on it, didn't want to work on it, tried it on, and it was huge. It was absolutely enormous. I remember when I cast this on, I decided that I wanted a really big, oversized fit, and this sweater is already it already has quite a lot of positivities built into it anyway, so it is already oversized. And when I tried it on, it had reached the point where it didn't look, fashionably oversized. I didn't look like a girlfriend wearing her boyfriend's jumper. I looked like a toddler wearing her dad's jumper. It was absolutely enormous. The sleeve had already reached my wrist, and I still had an entire 2 sections to go on it. So it was just ridiculous, and I decided to frog it. So that has now been repurposed. The yarn was just, I didn't remember doing this, but as I was knitting the Ingrid, I've obviously been splicing the yarn together. So as I was frogging it, I just had this enormous ball of yarn that was being wound together, and it was huge. I've soaked that. I just soaked it in water overnight, hung it up to dry, and all the kinks have gone out of that now, so that's ready to rewind and reuse. But I did also have some just some spare balls left over anywhere, and I'm using Drops Lima. I'm using Drops Lima in the colour 9025. It's a really pale silvery grey. And I've decided to cast on a storm sweater instead. And I cast this on last Friday. It is Thursday today, so less than a week, and I've already made such good progress. Let me hold it up and show you how much I've made on it so far. This is how it's looking. So I've worked the back panel, and then you pick up stitches and work the left shoulder, pop those stitches on hold, pick up the right shoulder and knit that. You join both of the shoulders together and knit the front. And then yesterday I just joined together the front and the back, and now I'm fully knitting in the round. But I love this. It's such a joy to work on. I haven't felt like this about a project in forever. You know, when you wake up in the morning and you're actually really excited to get a project out and work on it. And I think it's because of all these different sections that you can see. So you don't get bored. You're always kind of knitting towards the next section. And because all of these lovely patterns are created just by knits and purls, and I don't have to do any cabling or any mock cables or anything fancy, it's so easy, and all of the patterns are really intuitive as well. So once you've done a couple of rows, it's really easy to pick them up and continue. I love it. I really, really am enjoying working on that at the moment. So it's nice to finally have my Ingrid sweater off the needles, and yeah, that's gone now. Um, yeah, and I'm glad. I feel relieved because it's been sort of hanging over me for quite a while, because I had new projects that I wanted to cast on, but I didn't want to start them until I'd finished that one. I was trying to be good, but I had no desire to work on it whatsoever. So yeah, very, very happy. I'm really enjoying working on that at the moment. It's a gorgeous pattern. I'm making a size extra small. I swatched, I measured, and the same as the Ingrid, this sweater's also got quite a lot of positive ease built into it. So hopefully this should be just the right size, and I won't look quite so ridiculous when I wear it or anything. That brings us to the end of all of my current projects and things that I'm working on. But like I said, I do have quite a lot that I have planned. I also have something really exciting to show you that's a little bit different. And if you were subscribed to my newsletter, you will have seen this. I have I've been dyeing my own yarn. I have dyed my own yarn before, a long time ago. Back then, I used acid dyes, which the majority of yarn dyes that I know use. And acid dyes are basically, they're man-made, and they're very precise, and they're very repeatable, and they're very, they're designed to produce a particular colour. And this time around, I've been using natural dyes, and they are just completely different. They're a lot more unpredictable, inconsistent, but extremely beautiful. And it's just been, I've had so much fun playing around with them. And I was doing, I was dyeing all the time. And then my girls broke off for the summer holidays, and then I had to put it all away. It kind of became unfeasible. So I've got some colours here, only 3 of them. So I've got this one, and this one's wound in a ball because I'm currently working my way through them, and I'm swatching them, washing them, testing them for light fastness and things like that. I've got this really beautiful, like beigey pink here. It's gorgeous. And then I've got a really nice, just plain neutral here. And then I've got many others that were experiments that didn't quite work out how I wanted, but it all helps, doesn't it? And I will be, or I hope to offer a small selection of these for sale at some point in my Etsy shop, probably, because I'm having so much fun dyeing them. But like I said, I'm currently in a testing stage with them, because I just want to make sure that everything is perfect with them. The thing with natural dyes is that as well is that the colours can continue to develop even once the dye's out of the pan, and they can react with the pH of the water, and yeah, they're a lot more complex but very, very beautiful. So I've been having lots of fun dyeing those, and in the coming weeks and months I should have more to share with you. So my storm sweater is now underway, and as I've just mentioned, I'm using yarn that I frogged from my Ingrid sweater. But I did already have some yarn in stash for the storm sweater that I'd planned to use instead, and that was this Sandnesgarn Peer Gynt colour, and I think the colour is, I'm sure it's called Camel, but it says the dye number here is 2542, and it's the Petiteknit Peer Gynt. I think she's got like her own line out or something. So I have decided that with this yarn, because I'm no longer using it to make the storm sweater, I'm going to make an Esther sweater instead, which is similar to the storm sweater in that it also uses just knits and pearls to create a really pretty texture. It uses a thicker gauge, so I've had to buy some silk mohair to go with this, and that arrived on Tuesday. I had to go by the colour on the monitor, and it's turned out it's not as nutty as I thought it was. Um, but I think it should still work together. And the colour of the mohair that I got is 3041. I wish they would put the actual names of the dye on so that I could tell you the actual shade names and not just the numbers. So that is going to become an Esther sweater. At the same time as I ordered that yarn, I also ordered a vast quantity of yarn for a project that's quite important that I need to start working on soon, and that is Luke's Moby sweater. So if you've seen previous episodes, you'll know that earlier in the year I had planned to make a sweater for Luke. I showed him some patterns. I let him choose his own. He wanted the Moby sweater by Petiteknit, which is good in that I've already made one of these. I made one for Isla, so I'm very familiar with the pattern and things. But it's bad because it's going to be an absolutely humongous sweater, and cabling is just, it's not my favourite. I've not done a great deal of cables, but I find that when I do, I'm kind of dreading that part in the pattern where I actually have to do the cables, and it's always such relief when I've passed that part and I can just do knitting on those parts. So yeah, I'm not hugely looking forward to working that. I did try to convince him before I ordered the yarn to pick a plainer sweater, but he's adamant that he wanted like he called it like a fisherman's jumper with the cables and texture and things. So the Moby sweater he shall get, and I'll show you the yarn that he chose for that now. So I'm using the recommended yarn, which is Sandnesgarn Peer Gynt again. And he chose like a mid grey. And it's colour 1053. So it's nice. There was another colour, it was between this one and there's a darker one called Charcoal. And I looked through project pages on Ravelry, and the charcoal one in some lights looked more like this, but then other lights it looked really dark. And I couldn't decide which one to get. And then in the end, I just ended up asking Luke, like, what would you rather have, dark grey or medium grey? And he chose the medium grey. So this one is the one that I've gone for. I have worked out an entire schedule for knitting this sweater. It needs to be done for Christmas. We've decided that it's going to be a Christmas present for him. And in order to make sure that I get it done, and also to make sure that it doesn't take over all of my crafting time, because I need to make a size XL, I've had to order like 18 balls of wool. It's ridiculous. I've worked out an entire schedule, so let me hold it up to show you. Let's call my bank cards up. So yeah, I've given myself deadlines and milestones for things. So by the end of the 29th of September, oh no, I've already skipped ahead. By the end of the 22nd of September, I want to have completed the back yoke. By the 29th of September, I want to have done both of the shoulders. 6th of October, the front yoke, and then so on and so forth. And then I've worked it out. I've split the sweater up into smaller sections so that I can keep up with it basically, and I'll know whether I'm on schedule. And going by that, I should have finished the entire sweater by the 8th of December. And that gives me a little bit of breathing room just in case something comes up and I end up, I end up needing more time. I should still be able to get that done in time for Christmas. So, yeah, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting making that for him, but yeah, it'll be nice. I've never ever made anything for Luke. I've made things for the girls, never made anything for him. I did try to make him a pair of socks one time, but my God, his feet are enormous and they were just taking forever. So I never ended up finishing them. So I'm quite selfish, really. Another project that I'm going to be working on is I have it in this bag because I've started it previously, but I'm actually going to restart it with completely different yarn, and that is my own pattern, and it's my Isla shawl. So I have a pattern for the Isla scarf, which is kind of like a small necktie thing, and I wanted to make a bigger version of it. And this is inspired by the Petiteknit Sofie shawl, and I did start it. It is crocheted, this one, however, it's not knitted. I started it, and this is where I got up to. So it starts here, you carry on, and then once I reach the halfway point, then it just starts decreasing, so you get that similar shape. And if you have a look here, it has the same horizontal texture on it as the Isla scarf as well, so it's just a bigger version. And then I kind of stopped working on it and it got put aside in a bag and forgotten about. And instead of picking it back up at this point, I've decided that I would quite like to restart this. I'm not 100% happy with the colour. I would like to do it in a different colour. And that brings me on to some more yarn that I have here that I want to show you in some future projects, which is the last thing that I've got to talk to you about. It's a very long one today, I'm sorry. So I got some more lovely yarn gifted to me from Hobbii that I'll be using for some future projects. And the yarn is this really gorgeous colour, and isn't it beautiful? It's kind of like a reddy chestnutty brown. I really like it. It's called chocolate. I wouldn't describe it as a particularly chocolatey colour personally, because it's definitely got a red undertone to it. But I bought this off of the back of seeing I've forgotten her name again. I think it's Beth. I'm not 100%. And she has the Well Loved Knits podcast. And in a recent one that I watched, she had this really nice sweater on, and she said that she'd used this yarn to make it, and I loved it, so I requested some of that. So I'm going to start that again soon. So that's to make my Isla shawl, and that's going to be a priority for me because I'd like to get the pattern released and the video tutorial filmed very soon so that it's up ready for autumn and winter in case people would like to make that. I also have some other plans, and one of them is using this upcycled alpaca wool, and this is the big version, which just means that it's a bit thicker. So it's 50% alpaca, 50% wool, and it's upcycled. So I believe the dye lots are that they're not always repeatable. So I believe this is kind of like from offcuts of the alpaca yarn and things, and they use it to make up these lovely ones. I'm going to be making a Berlin sweater, a Berlin scarf, sorry. And I'll pop a picture of that up on screen so that you can see what that looks like. I love this pattern. I have heard that this is a really, really nice pattern to knit until you get to the tassels at the end, which apparently are incredibly time consuming. So we'll see how true that is. I've also got some of this yarn in another colour, and time permitting and depending how I get on with my Berlin scarf, I would quite like to make another one as a gift for someone for Christmas as well. So that's the upcycled alpaca wool big, and then I also have some of the just the standard upcycled alpaca wool here because I'm going to be making a Sofie sweater, and the Berlin scarf and the Sofie sweater are both by the same designer. I think it's Suzanne Muller. I will pop all the info either on screen or in the description box. And I've got that and some lovely kid silk mohair to go with it. So yes, lots and lots of lovely projects planned, and I just feel so I just feel really happy at the moment. I really love this time of year. Everything's kind of settling back into a routine now. Because things are always a bit up in the air, aren't they, over summer, when it's school holidays and things. But I feel like I can get back on track now. I've got some really lovely things planned and some lovely things that I'm working on currently as well. So yeah, things look good. I would love to hear all about your plans and what you're currently working on or what you're planning to make in the future. So leave me a comment and let me know. It has been really lovely to catch up with you, and I will be back again soon. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Take care, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye.